The plot of a Hollywood movie? Or is it really possible to hypnotize someone to kill? Dr. Herbert Spiegel is one of the world's leading experts on hypnosis. He has taught hypnosis at the Columbia University Medical School for over 20 years and is the inventor of the standardized test for measuring a subject's hypnotizability. He believes there is circumstantial evidence that suggests Sirhan Sirhan was hypnotized to kill.
The total and complete amnesia that Sirhan demonstrated from the very beginning to this very day suggests strongly that he was A, highly hypnotizable, and B, programmed to perform that act.
Hypnosis played a major role in Sirhan's trial, as psychiatrists for the defense and prosecution hypnotized Sirhan at least 6 times in an effort to unlock his memory.
You're right in the kitchen now.
In one session under hypnosis, Sirhan was induced to reenact the shooting.
Look, Senator Kennedy is here.
The psychiatrist reported that Sirhan nearly choked as he relived being strangled, just as in his actual capture.
Get the gun! Stay away from the gun!
This incident is one of many that Dr. Spiegel found in his review of the court psychiatrist's reports that lead him to believe that Sirhan falls into the highest category of hypnotizability.
Only about 5 to 10% of the population are that highly hypnotizable. He comes under the category of what might be called the hypnotic virtuosos.
In fact, Sirhan's high hypnotizability, which allowed him to slip into spontaneous trances, was the basis of the defense's argument. His lawyers argued that Sirhan involuntarily shifted into a hypnotic trance and therefore carried out the assassination without planning it ahead of time. The possibility that someone else may have hypnotized Sirhan was never presented in court. But Dr. Spiegel believes that the circumstantial evidence, Sirhan's desire to be hypnotized, his extreme compliance under hypnosis, his amnesia to the assassination event, all suggest that Sirhan appears to be an ideal candidate to be hypnotized. But can someone be hypnotized to kill?
Yes, it is possible to instruct a highly hypnotizable person to perform many acts, including assassination.
For the past 10 years, this eminent Californian lawyer has been investigating the links between hypnosis, the American security agencies, and murder.
Can hypnosis be used to influence people to commit illegal or immoral acts?
There's generally a folklore that it can't be so used, and I think the reason for the folklore, for one, is to discourage people from trying, and two, because it took a while for hypnosis to establish itself as a valid therapeutic technique. Now that we know that it is a valid therapeutic technique, we can also see that just as it can be used for good, it can be used for evil. For example, in 1954, 4 years before the Manchurian Candidate novel had been published, the Central Intelligence Agency had a team to build Manchurian candidates to commit assassinations. And one of the most frightening memos that I've read is an experiment that they wanted to run to be able to program somebody to assassinate a foreign head of state or an American official.
Surely this is just some conspiracy theory. What evidence is there to really support this?
I'm interested in the historical fact, and the historical fact for me has come from Central Intelligence Agency documents, and the documents definitely established that by 1954 the CIA, or at least the component that did the hypnosis research, was convinced that they could program people into committing assassinations. A more recent experimentation by the Central Intelligence Agency suggests that they have conducted a series of what they call terminal experiments, and these are experiments which will end in the death of the subjects. In one set of letters from the CIA to a researcher, they asked the researcher if he would be willing to conduct terminal experiments, and the researcher said he'd do it for free.
Sniper, aren't you? Sniper. Why did you try to kill me? I had to kill him. I had to. Oh, snap out of it. Stop it, Watson. He's shamming. No, he isn't. Who told you to kill me?
She told me.
She told you?
She told me I couldn't miss.
Well, luckily you did miss, you murderer. Isn't a murderer, Watson? Listen, Corporal Williams. She told you you had to do it, didn't she?
I had to do it.
I've got it, Watson, I've got it.
Got what?
The method used in the finger murders.
Well, what is it?
Hypnotism, my dear fellow, hypnotism.
This eerie, foreboding structure, also known as Ravenscrag, became a house of psychological horrors, all under the watchful eye of one of the world's leading physicians, Dr. Ewan Cameron.
The story of Dr. Ewan Cameron is one of the most tragic, but one of the most clearly visible stories of what happened during the mind control experimentation days.
Using unknowing Canadian citizens as test subjects, Cameron had developed a new procedure which caught the eye of the MK Ultra researchers, as well as the Canadian intelligence community. He was hired by the CIA and the Canadian government to further explore the treatment, which he called psychic driving.
First, Cameron proposed that they would use intensive electroshock and LSD and other disorienting drugs to, in his terms, de-pattern individuals, basically to wipe the slate clean. Second, using tape-recorded messages, try to program in new behaviors by repeating these messages hundreds of thousands of times, while the victim was immobilized with other drugs. And the final phase was to try to wipe the slate clean so that people could not, again, remember what had happened to them, but still have the new behavior.
The psychic driving experiments literally reduced the person to a vegetable. One of the group of people, who was a man called Robert Logie, who lives in Vancouver, he was also a victim of these psychic driving experiments where tape loops were played countless hours per day, many months in a row.
I heard 4 words, and it's very hard for me to say. 4 words I remember, where you killed your mother.
None of this, of course, was therapeutic. None of it was warranted by the conditions under which the people had gone to the institute. None of it was done with consent, and none of it was done with the awareness of the people that they were experimental guinea pigs in an advanced brainwashing experiment.
Another of Cameron's patients who endured months of mental torture was Linda MacDonald.
I think there were about 80 of us. We discovered that these 80 people were just ordinary, everyday people. It could have been you, it could have been me, it was me. It could have been anybody who just walked through the doors of the Allen Memorial on the wrong day at the wrong time when Dr. Cameron needed another schizophrenic for his fun little stuff upstairs.
Linda MacDonald started off as a pretty much normal person. She basically came into the hospital as a mother with many young children who was a little overwhelmed and depressed for just routine psychiatric treatment.
And 3 weeks after I was there, I was shipped up to the sleep ward. And I came out of there vegetable 5 months later.
By the time someone was in the sleep room, the ability of that individual to remember or describe what happened to them was very limited. So the descriptions that there are from nurses and from other people who worked at the facility, and their descriptions are, to quote one, like something out of Dante's Inferno.
Within the walls of this living hell, patients would be subjected to electroshock therapy that went well beyond the professionally accepted guidelines of 4 to 8 treatments.
I received a total of 109 electroconvulsive shock treatments. In less than 5 weeks, I had 86 straight comatose days where I was completely out of it. The purpose for all of this was to wipe my memory, to take a life, to wipe it completely clean. So I would not have a memory ever. When I came out of the treatment and they had decided that my memory was wiped sufficiently, I didn't know who I was. I was a baby. They had to toilet train me, and they had to teach me to walk and talk and feed myself.
She has absolutely zero direct memory of her life before age 25. Now, it doesn't take long to figure out